I don't know if it's something we want to touch on now, but um, just handling buck fever, like how do you mentally? Because it's something that's not really talked about.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that was one. I think Sweats talked a little bit on it before, like when we had preseason goals, like just managing that situation better in the clutch. And I think it's just an area that, there's so much other tactics and things that people try and cover, but like how to mentally prepare yourself for that moment, or even just controlling everything in the situation. I don't think a lot of people hear much on that. And I just would be curious to see what everyone else does different.
What's your secret, Spitz?
Don't look at the horns. Honestly, I don't really think much of it. It's weird because like I'll shake when the buck's coming in like at a certain yardage, probably anywhere from 50 to 100 yards. I'll be shaking in my boots, but like for some reason when it comes to like the actual shot, I stop shaking, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just natural or what, but I just try not to think much of it. I just try to focus on the shot rather than the deer and like the uh the post shot. Like I don't know. Honestly, I don't think much, and I think that's what helps me is I don't
Do you
think
think
about,
enough though?
do I think enough? Yeah, yeah, after I wound and miss so many. But
That's what I was gonna say. Is you probably don't
honestly,
have to deal with nerves quite as bad when there's a 50% chance you're gonna miss anyway. What the fuck?
no, I think I was telling Mansell before that that's karma because like I used to have so much confidence when a deer, any kind of deer would come in and just put an ethical shot on it. And I think I was telling him that I told somebody that I had never missed or wounded a deer, and ever since then I've been doing it quite a bit. So
Yeah.
obviously there's something I need to focus on now as far as mentally preparing myself for the shot. So that's why I'm gonna listen to you guys and maybe pick up some advice on what you guys do, and maybe that'll help me in the long run.
I learned a long time ago to never give anyone a hard time for wounding or missing a deer.
Yeah, well, here you are.
I didn't make fun of you.
Oh, maybe it's carrots.
Yeah,
Listen, it's just the five of us in this room. No one outside of this is gonna hear that I was picking on you, so don't worry about it.
Oh, it's going on. It's already, we're live. We're doing it live right now.
I know I was being sarcastic.
Hmm.
I don't. I get what you're saying, where you're coming from, and I feel like I can pick on you, and that's okay because I get nervous as hell. Like I get buck fever like crazy, but I'm like you because when it comes down to the second where I'm pulling the trigger, I'm calm. Like it subsides, and then as soon as I release the shot, it's back again. So it's like
Yeah.
for a very brief second, I don't know if it's just my breathing kind of comes into sync a little better and I can calm my nerves or what, but there's a second there where I'm able to make a good shot, but everything, like you said, watching a deer come in from 100 yards out, I'll start getting, kind of jacked up over it. And then the closer it gets, the worse it gets. And then as soon as I fire the shot, it stops. And right afterward, I freaking melt.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I think for me, it's what I noticed this year more than any years is I was able to mentally slow things down more compared to like when you get a situation where a buck comes in and it's just keeping everything under control seemed a little bit more difficult. Um, I know in the past like I felt like I rushed stuff more, and I guess just with experience now I'm slowly getting better at realizing you probably have more opportunities to get a quality shot than you think. I mean, there's obviously those situations, especially during the rut, where it's going to be a split second to make a shot, but more times than not, you do get a lot more shot opportunities. And I've kind of just mentally told myself that if it happens fast and you don't get the shot, it wasn't meant to be. And if you just for me, seemed like this year, especially by slowing stuff down and realizing you're going to get a good shot opportunity, I've made better shots and been a lot more successful in doing so.
So your secret is just making yourself mentally slow. That's awesome.
Whenever there is one thing that I try to do is like before I take the shot, I try to give myself another 1 or 2 seconds before I actually take the shot.
What do you mean?
Shoot twice?
No, like before you take the shot, you think for 1, 2 seconds, you know, is my pin in the right spot? Is this the best shot opportunity I have? Is he quartering? Like, just give yourself 1 or 2 more seconds before, you know, some people will just get him in the right spot, they'll pull back and shoot right away. Well, if you give yourself another 1 or 2 seconds, it'll just help you prepare
Yeah.
for a better shot, I guess.
I get what you're saying there.
You guys are kind of saying similar things, you and Mansell. Just be comfortable with the idea that not rushing a shot might lead to more deer walking away, but you're also probably going to have a higher percentage of success because you're not rushing yourself.
I think you talked about it, Josh, or Scott, but also, you know, like just when you know it's a deer you want to shoot, like you said, quit looking at the horns. You can look at the horns all you want when he's on the ground, but another thing too is this. I feel like I've luckily been successful enough on a lot of decent deer that it seems like the next level up is what gets me more excited. Like, I feel like a deer in that 120, 130 range, I can hold my composure with, and even in the 140 range a lot better now than what I used to. But once they start getting bigger than that, then buck fever starts kicking in a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
If
See,
that
I've
makes
never
sense
had
at
that
all.
issue. I'm shooting at 120s and 130s, so
Same here. We're good.
Does that make sense? Like,
no, that
Yeah.
makes plenty of sense. Yeah, I've
You
never
should-
had like a shot opportunity at like a 150 or 160, so
I've only had a few, but those ones get me a lot more worked up still
yeah.
than something smaller, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, that would make sense.
And I think it's just because being in those moments a lot more. Not that I don't get the rush. I do. I just don't feel like the buck fever kicks in quite like it does.
Yeah.
So you have to work even harder to keep chasing the dragon of big whitetails. What about you, B?
I don't know. I kind of just black out, honestly. I just try to slow everything down and not think about what's happening and try to pretend like I'm in the yard shooting at the target.
You think you black out because you have that patch over the one eye, or?
I
Partial
really
blackout.
debated not getting on here today. No, I don't know. I can't vividly remember, I don't have a good memory of being at full draw aiming at any specific deer. I remember them coming in and I remember just getting ready to take the shot and then take the shot, I guess.
What about
I don't
with
think
yardages?
I don't think a lot.
Like, what about with yardages with a bow? Is it something that you're already prepared for, or is there you're double checking stuff?
That's all dependent. I mean, I feel like there's been very few deer that I've shot personally where I've had to, range the deer as he's passing by. I feel like typically no trails and whatnot. There was this year I freaking hit that one in early November because it happened very fast and I misjudged the distance and I shot low. But typically I feel like I got a pretty good grasp for at least, out to 30 yards. But again, this year I guessed a deer at 22 and he was at 28 and I shot him low. But it happened so fast I didn't even have time to get the rangefinder out really.
Hmm. I would say once I get out past 25, I usually want to double check the range. Unless it's like a situation where you're in the woods where there's only select trails you can shoot. And I usually have them pre-checked already before anything happens. But if I'm on like a field edge or an open area where the yardages can vary more, they're not just on a set trail, I find myself a lot more waiting till the deer's in that vicinity, checking the yardage before I shoot.
Yeah.
But if it's like 25 or less, I mean, I usually got a pretty good idea on that distance and I don't have to worry about it. But if it gets further than that, I'm usually trying to get it down to the yard.
Bows are so damn fast nowadays that 10 yards, 20 yards, pretty much the same damn thing.
Not when you're shooting them 600 grain arrows that everyone's shooting.
I'm shooting, I think I weighed my whole setup. I think it's like 445 or something like that. I'm not shooting much for weight, honestly.
That's pretty average, I would say.
But when I sight in, I sight in at 30. And I'm not gonna shoot much over 30. And I actually shoot a single pin, so I try to I don't even move my pin. If they're more than 35 yards, I'm not gonna take the shot. And if they're 30 and in, I'm not even moving my pin because it's pretty much the same as far as where my arrow goes at the target anyway. And then I'll range before, when I get out there, I'll range 35 and in. Like I'll pick out, certain trees, like I'll get like a diameter or a radius, and then I'll memorize those trees and know what's 30 and in. That way I don't even have to pull out the rangefinder. But like you said, Mansell, it's a little different when you're out in an open field.
No, I would just say like even before I see a big deer or whatever, like if I have other deer come in, I'm constantly like playing it through my head as if that deer, like even if it's a doe or a small buck, like okay, if that deer was a big buck, what am I doing? So it's like running it through my head. So if he's on that trail, okay, I would shoot him right there, or I'd shoot him here. So that way, like when he does come through, it kind of just makes me slow down a little bit. And all right, I already ran this through my head. When he passes that tree, I'm going to draw or whatever. Seems to help me out a little bit more. But like those guys are all saying, Mike, especially like just slowing down this year, like in both B cam footage, when I went back and watched my hunts, like I'm at full draw for a long ass time. Like, and I don't think it's just because I'm not like, I can't get my pin on them. I'm just like, okay, don't fuck this up. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just running it through my head like over and over. Like, okay, you have them where you need them. All you gotta do is put the pin where it has to be and let it rip. And like, I think that's a big part of it is, past years or whatever. It's like, okay, you're just so wound up, you draw back, raise your pin or whatever, let her eat. But then you hit them in the guts or you hit them forward or like last year I hit that big one forward and I know for a fact it was just I was all wound up and just pulled or did whatever because that watching the footage back on that I was trying to grunt stop him, he wouldn't stop, so then you start freaking out and then you just pull the trigger. And so like that was one of the things coming into this fall that I knew I had to kind of focus on is just like take your time, they're not going anywhere, like. And Mike said, if they do and you don't get a shot, wasn't meant to be. Like I'm a huge believer in that. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. You just got to kind of let it play out.
I've found myself in like previous seasons when you're having a rough year and you do finally get an opportunity, that's when you rush it, kind of like where Aaron was kind of touching on that a little bit. Like I had a few years ago, I went all the way till like Oklahoma in December. I never had a chance at a buck with my bow. And I mean, he came in, it was at 18, 20 yards, wasn't going anywhere. But for some reason, I just shot him on the walk. You know, I could have let him stop, and he kind of like was taking a slow step forward. I just rushed a shot. I should have just waited to make sure he was standing still. Like I said, he wasn't gonna go anywhere. And it was just because I had, such a shitty year, and it was just the first deer in legit bow range. It's like I'm not letting them get away, and just you hurried it up. And I mean, I got the deer, but we had to let him, lay overnight. I could have made a better shot in that situation, and if I'd have just slowed things down a little bit.
I'm guilty of that too. Just getting too excited, worrying about, that you might get spooked or you might not get the shot. Like if you give yourself that extra couple seconds, then 9.9 times out of 10, they're not going to just jump away. You know what I mean? You're going to have plenty of time to take a ethical shot, but I'm guilty of that. Taking the shot right away, them not stopping when you bleed at them or
Yeah, that's what I noticed. That's when I freak out the most. Like, okay, I need to stop them. And like last year, for instance, we were hunting out of a blind. So you're shooting out of a vertical window and it's like the only shot you got. So you're like, you look at the window and you're like, holy shit, I got about, 10 inches from left to right that I got to shoot him in. And when he doesn't stop when you want him to, that's running in the back of your head like, okay, he's going to be out of this window and he's out of here. Like we've been hunting, and then you start playing like you've been hunting this deer for 3 months, never seen him. Here he is, and I'm going to blow it. Like that's
Yeah.
all rolling through your head while you're at full draw. Like it takes a person to like, okay, don't worry about it. He's going to stop. And if he doesn't, don't rush it. But
for sure.